Alright, let's watch. A developer calls out political brain rot. Can't wait. Can't wait. Helldivers 2 just destroyed the modern audience. Oh boy. 3, 2, 1, boom.
So Executive Pile Stat of Arrowhead, that of course being the dev studio behind Helldivers 2, recently made a statement that has absolutely offended the modern audience. Part of his take being, quote, "I really don't care, make good games, don't make a contemporary political statement," unquote.
Because you're a video game company. You make your political statements should not be in the game, especially when you are against the culture war, man. You make a good game and convince people to take your side by making a good game and making it digestible for everyone. That's what I think, truly. And I've always said this.
But yeah, that's just a little preview. So let's read all the context and then see his full take.
Play Marvel.
And then of course after that, we'll take a look at the people offended by what he had to say. And it all begins here. On December 31st, 2024, he said, "With 10 minutes to 2025, what are your expectations and desires for what the next Arrowhead game will be? I'm working on the high concept, but I would love to hear your speculation." A response from user ANX saying, "Never add DI to your games." To which he responds and says, "If it doesn't add to the game experience, it detracts. And games should be a pure pursuit of amazing moments."
Metal Gear Solid. It was a contemporary political video game that was a parody of real politics. And it was funny as fuck. I forget who I watched play through it. Maybe it was Lumi or Tenma. I can't remember. It was Zentrea. Someone. I can't remember. It was a while ago. But I watched them play through it, and the cutscenes and the dialogue is amazing.
Another user, that being Drew, says, "How would DI have benefited Helldivers 2?
Yeah.
To which Piles once again responds and says, "I don't like labels, but mankind is united in its extreme xenophobia on Super Earth. Hashtag inclusion, so maybe that's DI?"
Some chronically online Twitter people would argue against it and say something like, "Well, you're xenophobic towards aliens, and aliens means immigration." Do you guys remember that manga? That manga that we were talking about? That was the video made by Hirohei as well, conveniently. You can't please people like that. Yeah, Drama Queen. Yes, that was the manga, yes.
I really don't care. Make good games. Don't make a contemporary political statement. That, of course, being the part of the take that we read a moment ago. And yeah, some people really weren't happy with this take. For example, we have this response from someone who claims to be bylines over at Hard Drive Magazine. I wonder what this gaming journalist has to say about this one. Well, the tweet reads, "Good media often makes contemporary political statements. 2 examples. Politics are inextricably woven into the fabric of Starship Troopers and your own game, Johan." Here's a quote tweet that's upset with this take. The bio of this person saying 67K on TikTok, video producer, host, gaming content creator, etc, etc. And they say CEO thinks he's making a PR statement but actually just posted a nothing burger for bigots. Same bigots that harassed his own staff and tried to boycott his game for not having gender specific body types. 2022 game devs gotta stand on business. He's not the CEO.
Oh my god, it's because it was a good game, man. Oh my god. Why do people, not understand this at all?
Though, he stepped down 7 months ago as COO and switched to CCO. So yeah, you gotta love this person who can't even read a Twitter bio telling devs how they should run their company. Well, Pile's take would also offend the journalists over at Kotaku,
they don't know the difference,
and they write
to be
about the
fair.
situation. In their article, we've got this paragraph that reads, "Hundreds of fans responded. One wrote back, 'Never add DI to your games,' referencing the acronym for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Initiatives, which anti-woke culture scolds often use as shorthand for perceived efforts to force progressive values into video games and other art and entertainment. Despite its innocuous roots, DEI has become a loaded term in online debates, not because of what it actually means, but for what it symbolizes to certain reactionary groups." I love how they try and frame it as having innocuous roots, when the reality is that
There's no reactionary. You're acting like people are... I always have to hold back on actually saying what I want to say, but you're acting like in America they're killing gay people in the street. I'm sorry for like their crude description, but there's no response, man. We're not living in like 1942, man.
AI is intrinsically linked with corrupt ESG initiatives and massive corpo asset firms like BlackRock. It sure is ironic that self-labeled activists these days are some of the biggest corporate bootlickers out there. The comedy doesn't end there though. Kotaku continues and says, the irony of the tightrope being walked, distancing Helldivers 2 from the current online culture wars, while not outright rejecting them, is that the sci-fi shooter is loaded with political allegories, satire, and parodies of fascist propaganda, one of the central wars players fight in the games for oil. Quote, Helldivers 2 lore is funny and unapologetically political. Bugs are oil, bots are commies, managed democracy is a scam on...
I find that funny because it's a good thing, because it's a parody. That's the whole humor of Helldivers. I didn't play Helldivers. I watched a lot of videos of people playing Helldivers. It's satire. And even if you don't perceive it as satire, it's still portrayed in a funny way. There were people that were saying, oh my god, you hate capitalism, but you're capitalism and what is it called, colonialism, and invading planets for resources. You must like that in real life. It's like, no, it's the humor written behind the script of the story.
Quote, reads a PC Gamer headline back at launch. What's their point in citing some random PC Gamer headline? Like, why is that supposed to matter? Anyways, then they say, pile stat might mean that Helldivers 2 simply steers clear of any direct references to hot-button issues in contemporary news headlines. That might offer enough distance to inoculate the game from certain modern political controversies. But it also might be a distinction without a difference when it comes to people who consider any game that makes a point they disagree with to be unnecessarily political. For others, quote-unquote DI, is just code for criticizing any game that doesn't star white guys, as the idiotic reaction by some to Naughty Dog's Intergalactic the Heretic Prophet reveal trailer has made nauseatingly clear. Bro, there's been so much critique about that trailer for various things, including the overt product placement, and critiques about them.
That's what I had the biggest gripe with, because that means that those companies, at least to some extent, are okay with putting a label on something like that, and if it fails, they're not going to sponsor or do that kind of thing again with video games, which is ultimately a good thing. So they're kind of shooting themselves in the foot with that.
Main character's personality and how obnoxious she is, like slurping the straw in response to her friend warning her. And these corpo journalists and their associated activists are always the ones trying to reduce things into a bunch of straw men, trying to say like all the criticism is just because there's not a white guy starring in the game. Oh my gosh. Like, bro, this journalist is the one saying that. They're the one making that up right now.
And if it was an Asian guy starring in it, then they complain that so it's not a woman. It doesn't matter to them. You can't please these people. The people that are complaining, I've said this 100 million times before, but I've had multiple people coming to my stream or writing comments saying like, I fucking hate you. Why do you make content? I don't like your content. Why do you keep making it? It's like, you're not the target demographic. If you don't like it, don't watch it. Go watch another nice VTuber. I like plenty of VTubers that don't make content like I do. It doesn't mean I hate them. Like, what are we doing? Like, just mind your own business, man.
The modern audience types are also upset over on Reddit, as Pyle's tweet would get posted there in this post titled, all citizens of Super Earth are welcomed, cherished, and equal. I don't know if Pyles understood what he was replying to. And the OP including a screenshot of the discussion over on Twitter that we went over earlier. However, that post largely getting mocked by the other divers. For example, the post getting 0 upvotes and 50 responses, and ultimately also getting locked. And we can see exchanges like this. User Alice said, nah, that's a fairly decent corpo response, very neutral. To which the OP says, I fail to see how having diversity or things that add expression for players can detract from the game itself. Saying something is DEI is a racist, misogynistic, queerphobic dog whistle.
One of the oldest like space fantasy like operas in the world is Star Wars. It's very political, but it's underlying political where you have to really, really know the lore. You have to really, really know the inner workings of the fantasy universe. If you take it at face value, it's just an enjoyable, multiple saga. Nobody cares. Like, I, as a child, I liked Star Wars. I watched through it. It was enjoyable. I liked the fighting scenes. I liked the dialogue. I understood what was going on. But ultimately, it was a political movie where there's rebels and people fighting each other, and there's like an empire and there's overthrowing. But nobody cares because it's just enjoyable. And it's just mind-blowing to me that people can't understand that. That doesn't have to be like a statement by the director. Like, imagine Steven Spielberg's like, yeah, you know, Darth Vader was actually just an allegory for, like, killing a president or something. I don't fucking know. Like, I'm just making shit up. But, like, it's just like, what the fuck, man? Like, you don't have to say that.
Another Redditor, Read New, saying, that's one heck of a word salad. And the OP saying,
liking the dialogue of Star Wars is wild. Shut the fuck up. It has... Not George Lucas. Yeah, sorry, I mixed it up. Again, I'm not as a giga Star Wars fan, but... one of the best script writing in the world is from Star Wars. Shut up! Sorry, I got one guy. That fucking pissed me off. Fuck yourself.
Saying read more, getting -5 downvotes, and
Shut
Read New
up.
saying a Reddit response. So the OP Nizzy is trying to say that calling something DI is a racist, misogynistic, queerphobic dog whistle, that word salad
sure.
stuff, yeah. Which is hilarious because it's a term that the corpos made, and then was also getting used by government. And then once people started talking about and criticizing the terminology that these...
I don't think the government said that. I don't think the government's, or anyone in the government for that matter, said something like, oh, it's queerphobic, racist dog whistles. It's just chronically online stupid people who have nothing else better to do. The government doesn't really care, I don't think. At least not yet.
large groups created. Oh, well, suddenly it's just a dog whistle. It's just problematic. They completely ignore how that terminology even started and try and smear any of the criticism as just this problematic list of buzzwords. It's really pathetic. Another response by Read New saying, why should modern politics have a place in a fictional universe set in the year 2184 and where humanity is governed by Super Earth? The OP saying, what's going on with Super Earth is a modern type of politic.
Why does everything have to be literal to these people? Oh, we have a mental health crisis in the world. If we shut off the internet, this would all probably go away within like a year or two. Genuinely.
Also, people existing and being different shouldn't be seen as political. That just sounds crazy. To which user RV would
This has
say,
gotta be
saying
bait, man.
DI is just people existing while being different is either gaslighting to the highest degree or a misunderstanding of the reasons people dislike it. The OP Nizzy responds, saying that's how it's being used. And RV then says, in most cases, people hate DEI for the same reason they hate affirmative action. We can both agree that it's clearly wrong to prefer someone based on skin color or other identity traits. Disliking that someone was hired or chosen based off of skin color is absolutely not the same thing as disliking that people are different from them. Now let's...
And again, affirmative action was a response to something where people were actually being discriminated against because of their skin color or their gender or whatever. That was a long time ago when that actually started being a thing. And now we've swung so far that anyone that disagrees with this is a racist.
go back to where Read New said, why should modern politics have a place in the fictional universe set in the year 2184 and where humanity is governed by super...
Now we decline people that have white skin or they're a male. It's strong. It's strong. We have really, really pivoted. I think people would be proud in the past.
And take a look at this response they got too, that reads, because you're playing the game in the modern day right now. Same reason Helldivers 2 has two body types and not male/female options. Real people are playing this games in real life, and it's pretty cool to be respectful of that. To be clear, I don't think Helldivers 2 is doing anything wrong at the moment, but that's the answer to the question. So first of all,
I've never met a trans person in my life that said the words, I play a video game and it makes me upset that I can't play a video game because it has the word male and female. I've met like a total of 4, granted this is anecdotal, but still, I feel like it's such a non-issue. They'll pick whatever the fuck they want. Most of the time they pick female. It's like, why is this an issue for these Twitter people?
a game can have a male and female option, and that doesn't intrinsically make it disrespectful to people. That's a completely brain-rotted take right there. And yes, a fictional universe can have its own in-universe politics, and it doesn't need to be making some sort of modern-day political reference with that. I seriously worry about some of these people. It seems like they've turned their own minds into mush with their political obsessions. However, speaking of brain rot, it's important to remember that Helldivers 2 also did have this crazy community manager, Baskinator, who caused a ton of problems for the game earlier in the year. And regardless of what Pyle's is saying right now, that community manager does apparently—
I hope he's talking about the furry that like got really mad at people putting certain negative emojis on their furry Helldiver art. I don't know if it's the same person, but that was so funny when I saw that. I didn't believe it was real, and then it was actually real.
They still work for Helldivers, according to—
yeah, they put clown emojis.
And if I recall correctly, there was also some other like crazy Discord mod they had, Purple Squid or something like that.
One.
Who, once again, if I'm recalling correctly, was getting upset in Discord about people who critique DEI. And there was also that Spitz person, who I do think they let Spitz go. But I'm not sure what happened to Purple Squid, and it does seem like Baskinator is still around for sure, at least according to the bio. As such,
I think community managers and people like that aren't actually involved in the game directly, even with community managers, it's such a stretch. They shouldn't have personal social media. I don't know. I'm of the opinion that it's a difficult call because you are a part of a big company, and when you say dumb shit, it does affect you, the company and the game. They never are. They're just social media hires to promote a product. Yeah, but then they— I don't know. I'll just let them talk.
Many gamers are currently skeptical of any statements that Pyles is really making against DEI, given that actions do speak louder than words, but that's where the situation is currently. All that said, I do like to find amusement from things going on the internet, and regardless of all that, at the very least, Pyle's statement did upset the modern audience, which of course is amusing to see.
Very much
so I hope
so.
you enjoyed this segment, and if you did, consider liking and or subscribing. Appreciate ya, and I'll see you in the next one.
Yeah. In the same world, you pull that shit, you're fired. If I start talking about politics in the break room and someone reports me, I get written up. Like, that's just kind of how it was. But nowadays, if, like, some community manager says, like, fuck X, fuck Y, if you vote for X, I hate you. I don't know. Just, everyone's fine with it. And if you disagree with them, then you're a bigot or something. Again, I'm not even saying specifics. Like, I know the recent election was very volatile and very, very toxic in a way, but I think that if you start bragging and shitting on people for if your side won or if your side lost and you start bringing it into the workplace, I don't think that's appropriate behavior and you should be written up. And it's also personal. Like, if you vote for someone, it's a personal thing. It's like religion or sex. Like, it doesn't ultimately matter. You're working. Like, no one cares. Polarization of tribalism. Yes, and I think that when you work for a company, a lot of these people in the last, like, 15 years, I think they've been emboldened by the idea that they work for a company or a big company that's trying to fight like the chuds or the right wing or the gamers or the white males. I'm putting a quotation marks. I can't do it with my hands in the model, but just imagine. They start to like overflow their personal opinions into the workplace, or the workplace being their work Twitter, and it really, really hurts the company. Genuinely, I think that does affect the company to some extent. Like, you'd have a person that would be buying the game and maybe they saw like a video of their favorite YouTuber saying something and it would affect the audience. Maybe not everyone, but like I think a larger majority would. Yeah. I think we're allowed to put a little bit of bravado. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that I don't think it's appropriate for anyone to do it in the workplace. I'm not talking about social media. I'm talking about the workplace. Like, you're working, you go into your 9 to 5, and Susie's, like, feeling a little bit down. I'm not, like, saying full-blown crying, but maybe she's upset that the person she voted for lost, and she's like, I'm kind of bummed. Can we not talk about this? And you're like, no, you're a bitch. You deserve this. Like, you know, that kind of energy. Like, you shouldn't do that. Don't fucking do that. That's fucked. You're working. Like, stop. That kind of thing belongs, like, I don't know, like on social media or like a public place. Yeah, don't be a sore winner or loser. Try and take it with stride. So I hate it when people are like, oh my god, my side won, we lost, blah 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 blah.